Hey, family. Welcome to Mr. Gray Family, where every story begins with us. William didn't notice the boy at first. He was standing across the street, one hand tucked into his coat pocket, the other loosely holding his phone like he had somewhere more important to be. Cars passed. People moved in and out of the cafe. It was just another stop, another place, until it wasn't. The boy was small, maybe 2 years old, standing near the entrance, holding onto a woman's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. He wasn't doing anything special, just looking around, curious, quiet, taking everything in. William's eyes drifted toward him without intention, then stayed. There was something about the way the child tilted his head, not dramatic, not obvious, just a small movement, like he was studying the world instead of reacting to it. William frowned slightly. He didn't know why, but he couldn't look away. The boy turned just enough for his face to catch the light, and that's when it hit him. Not slowly, not gently, all at once. No, the word left William's mouth before he could stop it. His chest tightened in a way that didn't make sense, because he had seen that face before. Not the exact face, but pieces of it. The eyes, the shape of them, the way they didn't just look. They focused, like they were trying to understand something deeper than what was right in front of them. William took a step closer to the curb without realizing it. His mind tried to reject it immediately. That's not possible. It's just a kid. You're reaching. But the longer he looked, the harder it became to ignore. That boy, he muttered under his breath, barely audible even to himself. He exhaled slowly, like he was trying to steady something inside him. Looks like me. And just like that, everything shifted. Not outside. The street was still the same. Cars still passed. Conversations still blended into background noise. But inside him, nothing felt steady anymore. Because this wasn't a memory. This wasn't something he could file away and move past. This was standing right in front of him, alive, real, and completely unaware of him. William didn't move, didn't cross the street, didn't call out. He just stood there, watching a life he didn't understand yet, and maybe didn't want to. Let me ask you something. What would you do if your past showed up one day, not as a memory, not as regret, but as a person, standing right in front of you? A person with your face, your habits, your quiet little mannerisms you never thought anyone noticed. Would you walk toward it? Or would you do what most people do, and walk away? And another question. If you already walked away once, would you have the courage to face it again? Because that's the problem, isn't it? It's easy to leave. It's easy to tell yourself it wasn't the right time, that things were complicated, that life just moved on. But what happens when life doesn't forget? What happens when it waits, right there, across the street, in the form of a child who doesn't even know your name? Because this isn't just a story about a man who left. It's about a woman who didn't chase him, a woman who didn't beg, didn't break, didn't follow. She stayed. She built something, alone, and never looked back. And somewhere in between all of that, a child grew up, without questions, without answers, just living. And now, all three of those lives are standing in the same place, at the same time, without a plan, without preparation, without warning. William's jaw tightened slightly as he watched the boy shift closer to the woman beside him. There was something protective in the way the child held onto her, not out of fear, out of comfort, like he already knew where he belonged. William swallowed, because, for the first time, he realized something he couldn't argue with. He wasn't part of that, not yet, maybe not ever. And that thought, it didn't sit well. The cafe door opened. The woman stepped inside, gently guiding the boy with her. William moved without thinking, one step forward, then stopped, because suddenly, this felt bigger than just walking in. This felt like stepping into something he had no control over, and for a man like him, that was unfamiliar territory. Inside the cafe, the boy let go of her hand for a second, then ran. "Mama!" The word was loud, clear, full of excitement, and the moment it echoed through the glass, something inside William dropped. Not cracked, not broke, dropped, because that word didn't belong to him. That moment didn't include him. That joy had nothing to do with him. He stood there, frozen, watching through the glass as the woman bent down and caught the boy in her arms like she had done it 1,000 times before. "There's my baby," she said softly. Her voice didn't reach him clearly, but her expression did. Warm, certain, familiar. William's eyes shifted to her face fully for the first time. And just like that, recognition hit again. Tamara, of course, of all people. It had to be her. He let out a slow breath, shaking his head slightly like the situation might correct itself if he gave it a second. But it didn't, because now the picture was complete. The boy, the woman, the connection, and the years in between that he had never looked back on until now. And the hardest part? This wasn't something he could ignore anymore, because now he had seen it. And once you see something like that, you don't get to pretend it doesn't exist. Before we go further, take a second, like this video, comment, "I'm here if you're still with me," and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be told, and you being here helps push them out to people who need them. Welcome to Mr. Gray Family, a storytelling universe built for people who crave meaning, emotion, and unforgettable narratives. Here, every story begins with a spark and ends with a feeling you'll carry long after the video ends. Love, betrayal, family, secrets, lessons. It's all here, wrapped in immersive narration that makes you forget everything else. If you're searching for stories that pull your heart, challenge your mind, and keep you coming back, subscribe now. Your story begins the moment you choose to stay. William remained across the street a second longer than necessary, then another, because stepping forward meant one thing. There was no going back to not knowing, and for the first time in years, he wasn't sure if he was ready for that. But the truth, it didn't matter what he was ready for anymore, because his past wasn't behind him. It was right there, waiting, and he had just seen it with his own eyes. Detroit didn't rush for anyone. It moved the way it wanted to, slow in some places, heavy in others. The kind of city where people learned not to expect too much, but still showed up every day anyway. Tamara was one of those people. Her mornings didn't begin with alarms. They began with a voice, "Mama." Soft, sleepy, a little confused. She opened her eyes slowly, staring at the ceiling for a second like she was gathering herself. Not because she didn't want to get up, but because she already knew what the day would ask from her. "Mama." This time, a little louder. "I'm coming," she whispered, pushing herself up. Her body felt it. The tiredness didn't disappear overnight. It stayed, sat in her shoulders, in her back, in the way she moved just a little slower than she used to. But the moment she reached Noah's crib, that part didn't matter as much. There he was, standing, holding on to the edge, already watching her like he had been waiting. "Good morning, my little boss," she said, lifting him into her arms. Noah grabbed her face immediately, both hands, like he always did. He stared at her for a second, serious, focused, like he was checking something. Then, a smile, small, certain, and just like that, her morning had direction. The apartment wasn't much. 2 rooms, tight space. Everything placed with intention because there wasn't room for mistakes. But it was theirs, and that mattered more than anything. Tamara moved through her routine without thinking too much about it. Diaper, clothes, quick breakfast. Noah sat in his small chair, swinging his legs, tapping the table like he had somewhere important to be. "Eat first," she said, sliding the plate closer to him. He looked at it, then at her, then pushed it slightly away. "No." She raised an eyebrow. "No?" He shook his head like he had made a final decision. She sighed, already knowing how this would go. "Okay, no food means no juice." That got his attention. A pause, then he slowly pulled the plate back. "Eat." She smiled slightly. "Yeah, that's what I thought." By the time they stepped outside, the city was already awake. People walking fast, cars moving like they were late for something, conversations blending into noise. Tamara adjusted Noah on her hip and kept moving. No wasted time. There wasn't any to waste. The cafe wasn't anything special. Small space, worn floors, a bell on the door that rang every time someone came in, like it had been doing that job for years without a break. But it was steady, and steady paid bills. "Morning, Tamara," one of the regulars said as she tied her apron. "Morning," she replied, already reaching for his usual order. She didn't need to ask, didn't need to think. That's how long she had been doing this. People came in waves, some polite, some distracted, some acting like ordering coffee was the hardest part of their day. Tamara handled all of it the same way. Quick, efficient, no extra energy wasted. "You always move this fast?" a man asked one morning, watching her juggle 2 orders. She didn't look up. "Only when I'm working." He laughed. She didn't, not because she was rude. She just didn't have time for conversations that didn't lead anywhere. Noah stayed close, sometimes in a small chair behind the counter, sometimes with a woman from the neighborhood who helped watch him for a few hours. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. By the time her shift ended, her feet already felt the weight of the day, and she still had another job to go to. The bus rides were quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. Noah would usually fall asleep against her shoulder, his small hand gripping her shirt like he needed to make sure she didn't go anywhere. She would sit there, looking out the window, watching the city pass by in pieces, people getting on, people getting off, lives crossing for a moment, then disappearing again. Sometimes she let herself think, not too deep, just enough, about how things turned out, about how different things could have been. But she never stayed there long, because thinking too much didn't change anything. Her second job was brighter, louder, longer hours. Managers who smiled when they needed something and frowned when things slowed down. "Tamara, we need you on register." "I'm already here." "Then move faster." She didn't respond, just adjusted her stance and kept going, because arguing didn't pay more. By the time she got home, the day had already taken everything it could from her. But Noah still needed her, and that part, she never rushed. Bath time was slower, gentler. "Sit still," she said, trying not to laugh as Noah splashed water like it was his job. "No." "Yeah, I figured." Later, she sat on the edge of the bed while he drifted off, his breathing steady, his hand still loosely holding onto her finger. She didn't move right away. She never did. There was something about that moment that made everything else feel worth it. Her eyes traced his face quietly, the small details, the expressions, the little habits he didn't know he had yet. And then, there it was again, that familiar pull. His eyes. She looked away for a second, then back at him, because no matter how much she tried not to think about it, she saw it every time. "You got his eyes," she whispered softly. Noah shifted slightly in his sleep, unaware, unbothered. Tamara leaned back just a little, exhaling slowly. Not regret, not sadness, just acknowledgement of what was, of what wasn't. And then she stood up, turned off the light, and stepped out of the room, because morning would come again. And when it did, she would do it all over, without hesitation, without complaint, because that's what her life required. And she had learned a long time ago how to carry it. He wasn't supposed to matter anymore. Tamara had told herself that enough times for it to feel true, and for a while. It was, life had a way of filling space quickly when you didn't give it a choice. Work, bills, responsibility. Those things didn't leave room for memories that couldn't help you move forward. But before all of that, there was a time when William was part of her everyday life. Back then, things were different, not easier, just less defined. Tamara worked at a small event space on the east side of Detroit. It wasn't anything fancy, just a place people rented for birthdays, business meetings, small celebrations. She handled everything: bookings, setup, cleanup, whatever needed to be done. The day she met him didn't feel important. Not at first. William had come in early, before the rest of the guests arrived, dressed like someone who didn't belong in a place like that, but didn't seem bothered by it either. He looked around like he was studying the room, not judging it, just assessing. Tamara noticed. Of course she did. She noticed everything. "You here for the event?" she asked, walking past him with a stack of chairs. William turned slightly, his attention shifting to her. "For now," he said. She paused. "For now?" He gave a small shrug. "Depends on how it goes." She let out a quiet breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Right. And just like that, the conversation should have ended, but it didn't. He stayed longer than he needed to. That was the first thing she noticed. People like him usually came, handled what they needed to handle, and left. William didn't. He lingered, found small reasons to talk to her, sometimes about the event, sometimes about nothing at all. "You run this place?" he asked later that evening. Tamara looked around the room, then back at him. "Do I look like I own anything in here?" He studied her for a second, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, just curious. "No," he said honestly, "you just act like it." That caught her off guard. She didn't respond right away, because most people didn't notice things like that. After that, he started showing up more often, not always for events, sometimes just passing through, or at least that's what he said. "You just happen to be in this part of the city again?" she asked one afternoon, arms crossed slightly, something like that. She raised an eyebrow. "You're bad at lying." "I'm not lying." "Then you're worse at explaining." That made him smile, not wide, just enough. It wasn't supposed to turn into anything. Tamara knew the type, men who had somewhere else to be, something bigger waiting for them. Detroit wasn't their destination. It was just a stop. But William didn't treat her like a stop. That was the problem. He listened, really listened. When she talked about work, he didn't zone out. When she joked, he caught it. When she was quiet, he noticed that too. "You don't ask about what I do," he said once. They were sitting on the back steps after a long event. The night air cool, the city quieter than usual. Tamara shrugged slightly. "If you wanted to tell me, you would. And if I don't, then it's probably not my business." William looked at her a little longer than necessary. "You're different." She let out a soft breath. "No. I just don't have time for things that don't matter." That should have been a boundary, a clear line. But instead, it became something else. Days turned into weeks. Conversations turned into something more familiar, more comfortable. Dinners that weren't planned. Moments that didn't feel temporary anymore. For William, Tamara was something he didn't have to manage. She didn't ask for anything, didn't expect anything, didn't treat him like someone important. And for a man used to being valued for what he could provide, that felt different. For Tamara, William was unexpected. He didn't fit into her life, but somehow he found space in it anyway. And that was where things got complicated. Because deep down, she knew men like him didn't stay. The night everything changed wasn't loud. No raised voices, no accusations, just distance. They sat across from each other, same table, same place they had been before, but something felt off. William was quieter than usual, his mind somewhere else. "I have to go back," he said finally. Tamara didn't ask where. She already understood what that meant. "Okay." Her voice was steady, controlled. He watched her, like he expected something more. A reaction, a question, something. "For how long?" she asked after a moment. William hesitated. Not long, but long enough. That was her answer. She nodded once. All right. No argument, no attempt to hold him there, because she had already prepared herself for this. From the beginning. "You're not going to ask me to stay?" he said quietly. Tamara looked at him, really looked this time. "No." A pause. Then, "If you wanted to, you wouldn't need me to ask." That stayed with him, even as he stood up, even as he walked away, even as the distance between them became something real. And just like that, it ended. Not dramatically, not painfully, just quietly. What she didn't expect was what came after. Weeks later, sitting alone in her apartment, Tamara stared at the test in her hand. She didn't panic, didn't cry, didn't move. She just sat there, letting it settle. "Okay," she whispered to herself, not because she understood everything, but because she understood enough. Days passed, then more. She thought about calling him more than once, picked up her phone, put it back down. When she finally did try, it didn't go through. Calls unanswered, messages not returned, and then nothing. Not just distance, Absence. William wasn't just gone from Detroit. He was gone from that part of his life entirely. Tamara sat on the edge of her bed that night, phone still in her hand, staring at a screen that wasn't going to change. And that's when she made her decision, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of necessity. "I'll figure it out," she said quietly. And she meant it. Months passed. Her body changed. Her life shifted. Everything became about preparing for someone she hadn't even met yet. And when Noah was born, there were no dramatic moments, no one to call, no one to share it with, just her and him. She held him for the first time, studying his face the same way she would years later. Quiet, careful, taking it all in. "Hey," she whispered softly. Noah moved slightly, settling into her arms like he already knew her. And just like that, her life had direction. Back in the present, sitting in that same apartment years later, nothing about her routine suggested that anything was about to change. It was just another day, another shift, another night putting Noah to sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching him breathe, the same way she always did, completely unaware that miles away, the man she had let go without a fight had just realized he never really left, and soon he would come back. William's life didn't slow down. It didn't pause for reflection. It didn't wait for him to catch up with anything he chose to leave behind. It moved fast, meetings stacked on meetings, calls layered over schedules that were already full, decisions made in seconds that affected people he would never meet. That was the life he built. Precise, controlled, predictable, at least on the surface. His office sat high above the city, glass walls, clean lines, everything in its place. From up there, everything looked small, manageable, distant. William preferred it that way. "Send me the final numbers before the end of the day," he said, not looking up from the document in front of him. "Yes, sir. Also, push the meeting to tomorrow morning." Done. His assistant moved quickly, already used to his pace. No wasted time, no unnecessary conversation. That was the pattern, and it worked. But there were moments, short ones, when the room went quiet, when the calls ended, when the doors closed, and for a second longer than usual, there was nothing to focus on. Those were the moments he didn't like, because sometimes, not always, Detroit came back. Not the city itself, just pieces, a voice, a look, a conversation that didn't feel like everything else in his life. He didn't sit with those thoughts, didn't explore them, just let them pass, like they didn't belong to him anymore, until one afternoon. They didn't pass. He was in the middle of a meeting, nothing unusual. Numbers, strategy, expansion. Someone across the table was talking about projections. William nodded at the right moments, responded when needed. Everything normal. Then, a name, casual, unplanned. "You still keep any ties back in Detroit?" William didn't react immediately, just looked up slightly. "Not really." The man nodded. "Yeah, I figured. You moved past that place fast." William didn't respond, because that part was true, but the conversation didn't end there. "You remember that girl you used to see out there?" Something in William's expression shifted, not obvious, but present. "What girl?" he asked. His tone stayed even, controlled. The man leaned back slightly, thinking, "Come on, what was her name?" A pause. Then, "Tamara." Silence. Not loud, not dramatic, just still. William's fingers stopped moving, just for a second, then continued, like nothing happened. "Yeah," he said. "I remember." Short, dismissive, like it didn't matter. The man nodded. "Yeah, I ran into someone from out there recently." William didn't ask, didn't lean in, but he didn't shut it down either. "They mentioned her," the man continued. Another pause. Then, "I heard she's got a kid now." William gave a small nod. "Good for her." The words came out clean, too clean, but the man wasn't done. "Yeah, little boy." A slight shrug. Then, "Looks just like you." That was it. No build-up, no warning, just a sentence, dropped into the middle of everything. William didn't respond, didn't laugh, didn't question it. but something inside him shifted, not visibly, not in a way anyone else in the room would notice, but he felt it. The meeting continued. Voices filled the space again. Numbers, plans, decisions. William heard all of it, and none of it, because now there was something else in his mind. A child, a boy, a face he hadn't seen, but suddenly couldn't stop trying to picture. The rest of the meeting ended the way they always did. Efficient. Clean. "Let's finalize everything by tomorrow," William said, standing. "Sounds good." Chairs moved. People left. Doors closed. And just like that, he was alone. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't reach for anything, didn't open another file. He just stood there. Then slowly, he walked to the window. The city stretched out below him. Busy, unaware. William stared at it, but he wasn't seeing any of it. "Looks like you," he said it quietly, testing it. It didn't sound real, but it didn't feel wrong either. That was the problem. He turned away from the glass, running a hand over the back of his neck. A small movement, but for him, unusual, because this wasn't something he could calculate, not something he could solve in a meeting. This was personal, and personal things didn't follow rules. That night, he didn't go out, didn't take calls, didn't distract himself. He sat in his apartment, the city lights filtering in through the windows. Quiet, too quiet. He tried to move past it, opened his laptop, closed it, checked his phone, put it down. Nothing held his attention, because every time his mind settled, it went back. Tamara, a child. "That doesn't make sense," he muttered. But even as he said it, he didn't fully believe it. Hours passed. He lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. No sleep, just one thought, repeating, "If it's true, then what?" And for the first time in years, William didn't have an answer. Morning didn't feel like relief. It felt like something waiting, because now, ignoring it wasn't an option anymore. William didn't tell anyone he was leaving. No announcements, no adjustments to his schedule that would raise questions. Just a few quiet changes that made space for something he hadn't planned for. This wasn't business, so it didn't belong in that world. The flight was uneventful. No distractions, no conversations, just time. Too much of it. He sat there, looking out the window without really seeing anything. His mind kept circling back to the same point, not the conversation, not the man who said it, just the sentence. "Looks just like you." It didn't feel like information. It felt like something unfinished. By the time the plane landed, William had already made one decision. He needed to see it for himself. Detroit greeted him the same way it always had. Unapologetic, real, nothing polished. Nothing trying too hard, just what it was. The car ride was quiet. Buildings passed by. Streets he hadn't thought about in years started to feel familiar again in ways he didn't expect. Not emotional, just remembered. "Here?" the driver asked, slowing slightly. William looked up. The cafe sat on the corner, smaller than he remembered anything being. Simple sign. People moving in and out without a second thought. "Yeah," he said. He stepped out of the car and stood there for a moment. No movement, no urgency, because now he was here. And somehow, that felt heavier than the decision to come. William crossed the street, halfway, then stopped, not because he didn't want to go further, but because something in him said, "Wait." So he did. From where he stood, he had a clear view through the cafe windows. Not perfect, but enough. People moved inside. Orders being called, small conversations happening without wait. And then, he saw her, Tamara. She moved behind the counter with the same rhythm she always had. Efficient, focused, not wasting time. But there was something different now. Not obvious, just subtle. A tiredness, not in the way she carried herself, but in the spaces between her movements. William watched her longer than he intended, long enough to notice the small things. The way she reached for things without looking, the way she responded to people without needing to think. She had built a life, that much was clear. One that didn't include him. He exhaled slowly. That part. He expected Then the door opened, and everything else stopped mattering. A woman walked in, holding a small hand. The child stepped inside first, slightly ahead, like he was leading instead of following. William's focus locked instantly. The boy looked around, taking everything in with quiet curiosity. No rush, no hesitation. Then, Tamara looked up, and something changed. Her entire expression softened. Not forced, not controlled, just natural. "There's my baby," she said, stepping out from behind the counter. The boy's face lit up. Immediate, unfiltered. "Mama." He ran toward her. Small steps. Fast, certain. She caught him easily, like it was something she did every day. Because it was. William didn't move, didn't breathe properly. Because now, he wasn't imagining anything anymore. He was looking at him. Noah. The name didn't come from memory. It came from somewhere else, something he hadn't acknowledged yet. William's eyes stayed on him, studying, comparing, not consciously, just happening. The way Noah looked around, the way he held onto Tamara's shoulder, the way he leaned slightly when something caught his attention. Familiar, too familiar. William took a slow breath. That's him. The words barely left his mouth. Not a question, not a guess. A realization. Inside the cafe, Noah pointed towards something behind the counter. "Juice." Tamara laughed softly. "You just got here." He nodded. Like that didn't change anything. William felt something shift in his chest. Not sharp, not overwhelming, just present. He had missed this. Not just the moment, the pattern, the routine, the small, everyday things that didn't look important, but were everything. Tamara adjusted Noah on her hip, speaking to him quietly. William couldn't hear the words, but he didn't need to. He could see it. The connection, something built over time. Without him, that part didn't sit as easily. He stayed where he was, watching longer than he should have, because stepping forward meant stepping into something real, and this wasn't something he could approach the way he approached everything else. There was no strategy for this, no controlled outcome, just truth and consequences. William shifted slightly, his eyes never leaving the cafe. Noah leaned back in Tamara's arms, looking around again. For a brief second, his gaze moved toward the window, toward William. They didn't make eye contact fully, not long enough, but something about that moment felt like it mattered. William straightened slightly. His instinct told him that was enough. He had seen what he came to see, but his feet didn't move, because now, seeing it wasn't enough anymore. The question had changed. Not is it true, but what do I do with it? Inside, Tamara pressed a small kiss to Noah's forehead, and William felt it again. That quiet shift, because for the first time, this wasn't just about the past. This was about something that existed right now, something that had been growing while he was gone, and now he was standing outside of it, looking in, trying to decide if he was ready to step inside. William didn't plan what he was going to say. He thought about it, tried to, ran through different versions in his head while standing across the street, but every version sounded wrong. Too direct, too careful, too late. So he stopped trying. Tamara stepped out of the cafe later that afternoon. Noah rested against her shoulder, half asleep, one small hand gripping the fabric of her shirt like he always did when he was tired. She adjusted her bag with her free hand, already moving like she had somewhere to be, because she always did. William saw his moment, and for the first time since arriving, he hesitated, not because he didn't want to approach her, but because this wasn't something he could control once it started. Still, he walked forward. Tamara. Her body reacted first, a pause in her step, a slight shift in her shoulders. Then she turned, slowly. For a second, she didn't recognize him, not fully, not immediately. Time had passed. Life had changed. Then it clicked. William. His name didn't sound the same coming from her anymore. There was no warmth in it. No familiarity, just surprise, and something underneath it she hadn't decided how to handle yet. They stood there, not speaking, just looking at each other. Noah stirred slightly, lifting his head just enough to look between them. His eyes moved from Tamara to William, curious, calm, unaware. William noticed immediately. Of course he did. You look. He started, then stopped, because whatever he was about to say didn't feel right. Tamara tilted her head slightly. Different? There was a faint edge in her voice, not sharp, but present. William shook his head. No. A brief pause. The same. She let out a small breath. Not quite a laugh. Yeah. Life has a way of doing that. Silence again. This time, he didn't let it stretch too long. Is he mine? No hesitation, no build-up, just the question. Tamara closed her eyes briefly, not out of shock, not out of anger, just preparation, because she had always known this moment could come. She just didn't know when or how it would feel. When she opened her eyes again, there was no confusion left. Yes, one word, clear, certain, no explanation, no softening, just the truth. William nodded slowly, like part of him had already accepted it before hearing it out loud. Noah shifted again, more awake now. He looked at William longer this time, studying him the way children do when they're trying to understand something new. William lowered himself slightly, not fully crouching, just enough to meet his height. Hey, he said quietly. Noah blinked, then a small smile, simple, easy, uncomplicated, and somehow that made everything heavier. Tamara noticed the shift, the connection forming too quickly, too naturally. We should go, she said, adjusting Noah on her hip. William straightened. Tamara, wait. She stopped, didn't turn right away. He took a breath, not deep, just enough. I didn't know, he said. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't rushed. It was just honest. Tamara turned back slowly, studying his face, looking for something. I tried to reach you, she said. That landed. William looked down briefly. There wasn't anything he could say to undo that. I know, he replied quietly. Another pause. Then Noah leaned forward slightly, reaching up. Both of them froze. Tamara blinked. What? Noah reached again, more certain this time. Up. William hesitated, then slowly. He held out his hands, not confident, not sure, just open. Tamara didn't move right away. Every instinct told her to pull back, to stop this before it started. But Noah had already decided. Careful, she said quietly, shifting him forward. William took him, gently, like he was holding something that could break if he got it wrong. Noah looked at him closely, really closely. Then he laughed, just like that. No tension, no hesitation, just a child. Responding to presence. William felt it. That shift again, stronger this time. His arms adjusted slightly, holding Noah more naturally now. And for the first time since arriving, he smiled. Fully, Tamara watched them, and something inside her tightened, not because it was wrong, but because it felt too easy. Don't get used to that, she said, reaching to take Noah back. William didn't resist. He let go, but slowly, like the moment mattered more than he expected it to. Noah leaned back into Tamara's shoulder, still watching William, still curious. William stepped back slightly, creating space, but the space didn't feel the same anymore, because now, this wasn't a possibility. It wasn't a question. It wasn't something he could walk away from without knowing what it was. This was real, standing in front of him, looking back at him, connected to him, and whether he was ready or not, that didn't change anything, because now he was part of it, and there was no going back to before. Now, it was real. William didn't leave. That was the first difference. Not a promise, not something he said out loud, just a decision he made without explaining it to anyone. The next morning, Tamara didn't expect anything. She followed her routine the same way she always did. Up early, Noah first, everything else after. Mama, I'm here. She lifted him from the crib, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek before setting him down. Come on. We don't have time to argue today. Noah looked at her, then at the door, then back at her. Go. She frowned slightly. Go where? He pointed, not clearly, just forward. She didn't think much of it. Kids said things that didn't always mean anything. By the time she reached the cafe, everything felt normal, familiar, predictable, until it wasn't. The bell above the door rang. Tamara didn't look up immediately. Welcome in. Then she did. William stood near the entrance, not dressed any differently than the day before, not trying to stand out. But he still did. Tamara held his gaze for a second, then looked away. Menu's right there, she said, already turning back to the counter. It wasn't cold, but it wasn't welcoming either. William stepped forward slowly, not rushing, not hesitating. No one noticed him before she did. Up. Tamara closed her eyes briefly. We're not doing this again. William stopped just a few feet away. He didn't reach for Noah, didn't assume anything. He just stood there. I'm not here to take over anything, he said quietly. Tamara didn't respond. I just wanted to see him. That landed differently. Not enough to change her stance, but enough to register. She glanced down at Noah. He was already looking at William, waiting. You've got 5 minutes, she said. William nodded once. That was more than he expected. He crouched slightly this time, closer to Noah's level. Hey, Noah smiled immediately, like they had already met before, like this wasn't new. William let out a small breath. Yeah. Tamara watched carefully, not relaxed, not distracted. Every movement mattered now. Can I? William started, then stopped. Tamara studied him for a second, then shifted Noah slightly forward. Careful, she said again. William took him, this time, less hesitation, still careful, still aware, but not unsure. Noah leaned against him, like it made sense, like he had decided something without asking anyone. William adjusted his hold, naturally. You're heavier than you look, he said quietly. Noah laughed. Tamara noticed that. The ease. Too fast. Time, she said. William looked up. He didn't argue, didn't ask for more. He handed Noah back. That mattered, because he could have pushed. He didn't. Thank you, he said. Tamara nodded slightly. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The next day, he came back. Same time, same place. No announcement, no explanation. Tamara noticed immediately. Of course she did. You're doing this again? She asked, not looking up from the register. William stood calmly. I said I wasn't leaving. She paused, just for a second. You say a lot of things. I'm not saying this one, he replied. I'm doing it. That was different. Tamara didn't respond right away, because this wasn't the version of him she remembered. This one stayed. Noah clapped his hands lightly when he saw him again. Up. Tamara sighed. You're making this a habit. William glanced at Noah. He started it. That almost made her smile. Almost. Days passed. Not dramatically. Not perfectly. Just consistently. William showed up, sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes longer. He didn't interfere, didn't try to change anything. He observed, learned how Noah liked to hold his cup, how he pointed instead of asking, how he laughed at the same thing more than once. Small things, important things. Tamara noticed that too, and that made it harder, because it wasn't temporary. It wasn't casual. It was effort, and effort was harder to ignore. One afternoon, as she wiped down the counter, she spoke without looking at him. You don't have to keep coming here. William leaned slightly against the counter. I know. Then, why are you? He didn't answer immediately. Not because he didn't have one, because he wanted it to be right. Because he's here, he said finally. Tamara's hand paused for just a second, then continued. That's not enough, she said. William nodded. I know. That was the difference. No argument, no defense, just understanding. Tamara glanced at him briefly, still guarded, still careful, but now watching, because this wasn't about what he said anymore. It was about whether he stayed, and for the first time, he was. William noticed it before she said anything. The way Tamara moved, still efficient, still steady, but there were moments now, small ones, where the pace caught up to her. It wasn't obvious to anyone else. Customers didn't see it. They saw someone who got their orders right, who didn't waste time, who kept things moving. But William saw it, the way she leaned slightly on the counter when things slowed, the way her shoulders dropped for half a second before she picked herself back up, the way she checked the time, not because she was bored, but because she was calculating what came next. And then there was Noah, always close, always needing something, not demanding, just present. That combination, it stayed with him. For days, he didn't say anything. He just showed up, watched, learned, but eventually, that wasn't enough. One evening, after her shift ended, Tamara stepped outside with Noah on her hip. The air was cooler, the street quieter than usual. William was already there, waiting. She noticed immediately. "You're still doing this." He didn't react to the tone. "I told you I would." She adjusted Noah slightly. "You don't have to wait outside now, too." "I know." A pause. Then he stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to be heard clearly. "You shouldn't be doing all of this alone." Tamara's expression didn't change. "I'm not alone," she said. William glanced at Noah. "That's not what I meant." She held his gaze. "I know exactly what you meant." Silence. Then he said it. "I can help." Her jaw tightened slightly. "With what?" she asked. William gestured lightly, not at anything specific. "Everything, all of it." That was the wrong answer. Tamara shifted Noah higher on her hip. "Be specific." William exhaled slowly. "Childcare." "Your schedule. You're working 2 jobs. I'm working," she cut in. "I know." "Then don't say it like it's a problem." He paused, adjusted. "It doesn't have to be this hard." And there it was, the line that changed everything. Tamara let out a small breath. Not tired, not frustrated, firm. "Stop." William went quiet. Not defensive, not confused, just listening. "I've been doing this before you showed up," she continued, her voice steady, controlled. "I've been waking up early, working, coming home, doing it all over again. And somehow, we're fine." She adjusted Noah slightly as he shifted in her arms. "So don't stand here and tell me it doesn't have to be this hard, like I've been doing something wrong. I didn't say you were doing anything wrong. You didn't have to." That landed. William looked at her. Really looked this time. Not at the situation, not at what he thought needed fixing. At her. And for the first time, he saw it clearly. This wasn't about struggle. This was about control. Her control. Her life. The way she built it without anyone. "I'm not trying to take that from you," he said. Tamara shook her head slightly. "That's exactly what it feels like." Another pause. Cars passed in the background. A distant conversation carried down the street. Real life continued, right in the middle of this one. "I can get you a better place," William said. The words came out before he adjusted them, before he thought about how they would land, and the moment they did, he knew. Tamara's expression changed. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. "No, it's not about, no." She stepped back slightly. "Creating space. You don't get to come in and upgrade my life like it's something that needs fixing. I'm not upgrading anything. You are." Her voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. "You're looking at what I built and seeing what's missing." William opened his mouth to respond, then stopped, because she was right. "I'm not missing anything," she continued. "I'm managing it." That word stayed there. Managing, not perfect, not easy, but hers. William nodded slowly, not in agreement, in understanding. "I hear you," he said. Tamara studied him, waiting, to see if that meant anything. "I'm not going to try to fix your life," he added. Another pause. Then, "I just don't want to stand back and do nothing." That was different. Not offering, not imposing, just stating. Tamara shifted her weight slightly. Noah rested his head against her shoulder again. "Then don't do nothing," she said. William waited, because there was more. "Be here," she continued. Simple, direct, no extra plans, no big changes, no shortcuts. Her eyes held his. "If you want to help, be here." That was it. No conditions hidden inside it. No complications. Just one expectation. William nodded. I can do that. Tamara didn't respond immediately, because she wasn't looking for words. She was waiting for proof, and that would take time. The shift didn't happen all at once. It wasn't loud. It didn't come with a clear moment where everything changed. It showed up in smaller ways, the kind you could ignore if you wanted to. That evening, Noah didn't want to sleep. It wasn't unusual. Some nights, he fought it like it was something he had to win. Tamara sat on the edge of the bed, one hand resting on his back as he moved around under the blanket. Lay down, she said quietly. No, she exhaled through her nose. Yeah, I figured. Noah sat up instead, looking at her like the conversation wasn't finished. Sleep. She tried again. He shook his head. Across the room, William leaned slightly against the wall. He had been there for a while, not saying much, just present. He watched the exchange carefully, not stepping in, not assuming. Tamara adjusted her position, trying again to settle Noah down. It wasn't working. I don't know where you get this energy from, she muttered under her breath. William almost smiled. Can I try? He asked. Tamara didn't respond immediately. Her first instinct, no, not because she didn't think he could, but because she wasn't used to sharing this part. The quiet moments, the routine, the responsibility that didn't stop. She looked at Noah, then at William. He's not going to make it easy, she said. William nodded slightly. I don't expect him to. That answer mattered. She shifted Noah toward him. Don't drop him, she said. William took him carefully. Noah didn't resist. He just looked at him, curious. William adjusted his hold. Slower this time, more natural. Hey, he said quietly. Noah blinked, then rested his head against William's shoulder. Just like that. Tamara frowned slightly. No way. She had been trying for almost 30 minutes, and now, William stood there, barely moving, one hand supporting Noah's back, the other resting lightly against his side. No rocking, no effort, just stillness. Minutes passed. Tamara watched closely, waiting for Noah to sit up again, to protest, to start moving. He didn't. His breathing slowed, his grip relaxed, and then he was asleep. Tamara blinked. You're kidding me. William looked down slightly. I didn't do anything. That's the problem, she replied. There was a quiet moment between them, not uncomfortable, not tense, just unexpected. William moved carefully, lowering Noah onto the bed, making sure not to wake him. Tamara stepped closer, adjusting the blanket slightly. Their hands almost touched. They both noticed. Neither said anything. William stepped back first, giving her space. Thank you, she said quietly. He nodded. It wasn't a big moment, no dramatic shift, no sudden change in how things felt. But something moved. Later that night, they sat in the living room, the apartment quiet now, Noah asleep. In the next room, Tamara leaned back slightly, her head resting against the wall. Her eyes closed for a second longer than usual. You can sleep if you want, William said. I'm fine. She wasn't going to say that. William looked around the apartment, taking in the details, not judging, not comparing, just understanding. This is a lot, he said. Tamara opened her eyes. It's mine, he nodded. I know. Another pause. Then, I'm not trying to change it. She studied him. Because that mattered. I believe you, she said. And that was new. Not full trust, not acceptance, but not resistance either. Something in between. William leaned forward slightly, resting his arms on his knees. I'm still figuring this out, he admitted. Tamara let out a small breath. Me too. That was the first time they had said something like that at the same time, not as separate people, but as two people in the same situation, and that changed something. Not everything, just enough. From the other room, Noah shifted slightly in his sleep. A small sound. Both of them looked toward the door at the same time, then back at each other. There was something quiet in that moment, not forced, not planned, just there. Tamara looked away first, because staying in that moment too long felt dangerous. Not because it was wrong, but because it felt easy. and easy. Wasn't something she trusted anymore. Still, she couldn't ignore what she saw. The way Noah responded to him, the way he settled, the way he didn't hesitate. That wasn't something you could force. That wasn't something you could fake. That was natural. And that was the part that stayed with her. Because for the first time since William came back, she wasn't just seeing him as someone who left. She was seeing him as someone who could stay. And that thought, it didn't make her feel better. It made her careful, because if this worked, if this became something real, then losing it again wouldn't feel the same. Tamara exhaled slowly, standing up. I should check on him. William nodded. She walked toward the room, pausing briefly at the doorway. Then, stepping inside, William stayed where he was, not following, not interrupting. Just there. And for the first time, that was enough. Inside the room, Tamara adjusted Noah's blanket again, even though it didn't need it. She looked at him for a second. Then, quietly, she admitted something to herself she hadn't said out loud yet. This felt right, and that scared her. The next morning felt different, not because anything had changed, but because something had. Tamara stood near the door, adjusting her bag while keeping one eye on Noah. He sat on the floor, focused on stacking blocks in a way that didn't quite make sense but mattered to him. I'll be back before evening, she said. William nodded. This was new. She hesitated, just for a second. You sure you're okay? She asked. William looked at Noah, then back at her. I'll figure it out. That answer. She didn't fully trust it, but she didn't stop him either. He gets quiet when he's tired, she added. Not loud, just watch for it. I will. Another pause. Then she left. The door closed. And just like that, it was just them. William looked down at Noah. Noah looked up at him. Silence. Then, up. William let out a small breath. We're starting with that, huh? He picked him up. Less careful now. More natural. Noah settled against him easily. That part still surprised him. All right, William said quietly. What do we do now? Noah pointed, not clearly, just toward the room. William followed. The next hour didn't go the way he expected, because there was no structure, no clear steps, no instructions. Noah moved from one thing to another without warning. Blocks, then a cup, then something on the floor that suddenly mattered more than anything else. William tried to keep up. Okay. No, that doesn't go there. Noah ignored him. Right. You don't care. He adjusted. Tried again. All right, show me. That worked better. Noah handed him a block. William took it. Like this? Noah shook his head. Took it back. Did it his own way. William watched, then nodded. Got it. This wasn't something he could lead. He had to follow. That was new. Time moved differently. Slower, but somehow fuller. At some point, Noah got frustrated. Not loudly. He just stopped, sat down, looked at the floor. William noticed, immediately. Hey, he said, crouching slightly. No response. He paused, thinking. Then, he sat down too, not trying to fix it. Just there. A few seconds passed. Then Noah leaned slightly toward him, not asking, just moving closer. William adjusted without thinking. That part came easier than expected. Later, things got harder. Food. William stood in the kitchen, looking at the options like they were more complicated than they should be. Okay, he picked something simple. Set it down. Noah looked at it. Then at him. No. William blinked. No. Noah pushed it slightly. William let out a short breath. We're doing this. He remembered something. Tamara's voice. No juice if you don't eat. William looked at Noah. All right. Noah waited. William didn't move. A moment passed. Then, Noah slowly pulled the plate back. William nodded once. Yeah, that worked. Not because he controlled it, because he learned it. By the time the afternoon came, William felt it. Not exhaustion, something else, awareness of how much he didn't know, of how much he had missed. The routines, the small signals, the way everything connected without needing to be explained. None of that could be learned in a day, and he felt that, clearly. Noah climbed onto the couch beside him, resting against his arm without asking. William looked down at him. "You've been doing this without me." Noah didn't respond. He didn't need to. The answer was already there. In everything, the way he moved, the way he reacted, the way he didn't look for him. That part stayed with him, not heavy, but present, because this wasn't about one moment. This was about years. Years he didn't see, didn't feel, didn't carry, and now he was stepping into something that had already been built. Without him. The door opened later that evening. Tamara stepped in. Her eyes moved quickly, first to Noah, then to William, assessing. Noah looked up, then smiled. Up. William almost laughed. Tamara noticed that. "He was okay?" she asked. William nodded. "He's consistent." That was the simplest way to say it. Tamara looked at Noah again, then back at William. Something in her expression shifted, not fully, but enough to notice, because now, this wasn't just about showing up. He had stayed, and handled it, without her. The shift didn't announce itself. It didn't come with a moment anyone could point to and say, "This is where everything changed." It happened quietly, in the middle of something ordinary. The afternoon had been simple. Tamara moved through the apartment, handling what needed to be done while keeping an eye on Noah. William sat nearby, not in the way, not trying to take over, just present. That balance, it was new. Noah moved between them freely, from the floor to the couch, from Tamara to William, like the space between them didn't exist in the way it used to. Tamara noticed. She always did. "Don't let him climb that," she said, pointing lightly toward the edge of the couch. William reached out instinctively, steadying Noah before he could slip. "I've got him." Noah looked up at him, then smiled. Tamara turned away, pretending she didn't see that part, because that part was getting harder to ignore. Later, she stepped into the kitchen, not far, just enough distance. From there, she could still hear them. "No, not that one," William said. A small pause, then Noah's voice, soft, focused. "Duh." Tamara froze, not completely, just enough for the moment to register. She didn't move right away, because she needed to hear it again. From the living room, "Say it again," William said quietly, not pushing, not correcting. Noah looked at him, studying. Then, "Duh." William didn't react the way she expected. No sudden movement, no big expression. He just looked at him, still, like he wasn't sure what to do with it. Tamara stepped back into the room, slowly. Neither of them noticed her at first. Noah reached toward William again. "Duh." That time, there was no question. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It was directed. Tamara felt it, not sharp, but deep, because that word, it meant something, even if Noah didn't fully understand it yet. William finally looked up. His eyes met hers. There was no celebration there, no pride, just awareness of what that moment meant and how complicated it was. Tamara crossed her arms slightly, not defensive, just holding herself steady. "He's just talking," she said. William nodded. "I know." But neither of them fully believed that, because they both saw it. The way Noah looked at him, the way he reached for him, the way that word came out, not forced, not confused, natural. And that was the part Tamara wasn't ready for. Noah leaned into William again, resting comfortably against him like it was already decided. William adjusted his arm around him without thinking. That ease. It was becoming normal. Tamara looked away first, because if she kept watching, it would start to feel like something she couldn't control, and control was the only thing that kept everything steady. "You should go," she said after a moment. Not harsh, not cold, just necessary. William didn't argue. He understood what that meant. He stood carefully, making sure Noah was settled before stepping back. Noah reached out slightly. "Duh." That one landed differently. William hesitated, just for a second. Then he gently touched Noah's hand. "I'll see you," he said quietly, not promising anything more than that, not taking anything that wasn't given. just staying within the moment. Tamara watched that, every part of it, because this wasn't something she could ignore anymore. This wasn't just about William showing up. This was about Noah responding, forming something, without waiting, without asking, and that was where it became real in a different way. After William left, the apartment felt quieter, not empty, just different. Noah moved around like he always did, unaffected. Tamara stood still for a moment longer than usual, her mind catching up with what just happened. "Da," Noah said again, pointing toward the door. Tamara looked at him, really looked this time. Then she turned away, because she didn't have an answer for that, not yet. And that was the problem, because this wasn't something she could control anymore. It was already happening, and she wasn't ready for where it could lead. William didn't expect it to happen that quickly. He thought there would be more time, more space between moments, more control over how things unfolded. But that word, it changed something, and Tamara felt it before she even understood it. The next day, she didn't call him, didn't ask him to come, didn't mention anything about what happened, but he still showed up. Of course he did. The bell rang. Tamara didn't look up immediately. She already knew. "You're early," she said, keeping her attention on the register. William stepped inside. "I didn't think there was a schedule." "There isn't," she replied, "which is why you shouldn't be this comfortable." That wasn't anger, but it wasn't neutral either. William didn't respond right away, because he understood something now. This wasn't about him showing up. This was about what happened when he did. Noah sat behind the counter, playing with a cup like it was the most important thing in the room. The moment he saw William, he stood up. "Ah," Tamara froze, not visibly, but enough. William didn't move. He stayed where he was, because this wasn't something he wanted to handle the wrong way. Tamara stepped in quickly, lifting Noah into her arms. "No," she said quietly. Noah looked at her, confused, then pointed. "Da." That second time, it hit harder, because now, it wasn't just a moment. It was repeating. Tamara turned slightly, putting distance between Noah and William. "He's just talking," she said again, but her voice didn't match the words. William saw it, the shift, the discomfort, and for the first time, he didn't step closer. He stayed where he was. "I'm not trying to take anything," he said. Tamara shook her head. "This isn't about you taking anything." "Then what is it?" That question. She didn't answer immediately, because the answer wasn't simple. "It's about timing," she said finally. William frowned slightly. "Timing? You don't get to miss everything." She paused, adjusting Noah slightly, and then walked back in like you can catch up in a week. There it was, not loud, but real. William nodded slowly. "I'm not trying to catch up," he said. "Then what are you trying to do?" she asked. He met her eyes. "Be here." Simple, but not enough. Tamara let out a short breath. "That sounds good," she said, "but it doesn't fix anything." "I know." That answer didn't give her what she expected. No argument, no pushback, just agreement. And that frustrated her more, because she couldn't push against it. "You don't get to walk back in and rewrite everything," she said. The words came out steady, clear, final. William didn't look away. "I'm not rewriting anything," he replied. "Then what are you doing?" she asked again. This time, his answer came faster. "I'm accepting it." That landed, because that was different. Not fixing, not changing, accepting. "I wasn't here," he continued. "I didn't know. I didn't show up." That part doesn't go away. Tamara watched him closely, waiting for the part where he explained it, defended it, made it make sense. He didn't, and I'm not going to act like it does, he added. Silence, the kind that didn't need to be filled. Noah shifted in Tamara's arms, looking between them again, unaware, unaffected. William glanced at him briefly, then back at her. "I'm here now," he said. Tamara's expression didn't soften, but it changed, slightly, because this wasn't the same conversation anymore. This wasn't about what he should have done. This was about what he was doing now, and that was harder to argue with. Still, she wasn't ready, not for what this could become. not for what Noah was already starting to feel. "You need to slow down," she said. William nodded. "I am." "No," she replied. "You think you are." A pause. "Then you don't see it because you weren't here for the beginning." That one hit differently, because it wasn't an accusation. It was a fact. William looked down briefly, then back at her. "You're right." No defense, no correction, just acceptance. Tamara shifted her weight slightly, because now she didn't know where to push, and that was unfamiliar. "I'm not saying you can't be here," she said, her voice quieter now. "I'm saying you don't get to move faster than this." William nodded. "I won't." Another pause. "Then I'll move at his pace." That changed something, because for the first time, he wasn't trying to match her. He was choosing Noah, and that mattered. Tamara looked at him, really looked, not at the man she used to know, but at the one standing in front of her now, different. Not completely, but enough. Noah rested his head against her shoulder again. Quiet now. The moment had passed, but what it left behind was still there, and neither of them could ignore it anymore. William didn't talk about staying. He didn't bring it up again, didn't explain it, didn't try to convince anyone. He just changed how he moved. The next few days didn't look dramatic. There were no big gestures, no sudden shifts, just adjustments. He started with his time. Calls got shorter, meetings moved. Some things delayed, others handed off. Not everything, but enough, because for the first time, his schedule wasn't the most important thing he was managing. Tamara noticed, not immediately, but gradually, the way he showed up earlier, stayed longer, left without making it feel like he was rushing somewhere else. "You don't have anything to do?" she asked one afternoon, glancing at him from behind the counter. William leaned slightly against the side, watching Noah stack cups. "I do." She raised an eyebrow. "And you're just ignoring it?" "No." A pause. "I'm choosing something else." That answer stayed with her longer than she expected, because it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like a decision, and decisions, those were harder to question. William didn't try to insert himself into everything. He didn't interrupt her routine, didn't take over tasks, didn't correct anything he followed. Watched and stepped in only when it made sense. One morning, Noah dropped his cup. It rolled under the table. Tamara moved to grab it. William got there first, not rushing, just paying attention. He picked it up, wiped it lightly, and handed it back. Noah took it without thinking. Tamara paused, because that moment, it was small, but it wasn't forced. It fit. Later that day, when things got busy, William stepped behind the counter, not fully, not in the way, just enough to pass things when needed, to keep things moving. "You don't work here," Tamara said quietly. "I know." "Then don't act like you do." William nodded, stepped back. No argument, no explanation. That, she noticed too, because before, he would have pushed. Now, he adjusted. The difference was clear. Days passed. The rhythm didn't break. If anything, it became more steady. William started learning the timing. When Noah got tired, when he got quiet, when he needed distraction, when he needed space. He didn't ask every time. He observed and got better. Not perfect, but better. One evening, as Tamara packed up to leave, she noticed Noah already reaching toward William. Up. William looked at her first, waiting, not assuming. Tamara hesitated, then nodded once. That was new. William picked Noah up. Noah rested easily against him. No adjustment needed. Tamara grabbed her bag, watching them out of the corner of her eye, not fully relaxed, but not stopping it either. Outside, the air was cooler, the city moving at its usual pace. They walked together, not close, not distant, just aligned. Noah held onto William's shirt with one hand. Tamara's fingers brushed lightly against Noah's back. A small connection, unspoken. Halfway down the block, Noah shifted, then reached toward Tamara. William adjusted without thinking, bringing them closer, not forcing it, just making space. Tamara took Noah's hand. For a second, all three of them were connected. Then Noah let go again. like it wasn't something he needed to hold on to, like it was already there. William noticed that, not as a moment, but as something simple, and that simplicity, that mattered more than anything else. Back at the apartment, Tamara unlocked the door. She stepped inside first, then paused. Turning slightly, "You don't have to stay late," she said. William nodded. "I know," but he didn't leave right away. He waited, not for permission, just for the moment to settle. Tamara watched him for a second, then turned away, not stopping him, not inviting him either, just allowing. And that was the difference now. Nothing was being rushed, nothing was being forced, but something was being built, quietly, consistently, and for the first time, it didn't feel temporary. The next day didn't feel like a turning point. There was no moment where everything suddenly became clear, no shift anyone could point to. It was just a day. Tamara had the morning off. That alone made it different. No rushing, no clock watching, no moving from one job to the next without stopping. She stood by the window for a moment, looking outside like she was deciding something. Behind her, Noah moved across the floor, dragging one of his toys with him. The sound was steady, repetitive, familiar. William sat on the couch, not speaking, not interrupting, waiting, because this wasn't his decision to make. Tamara turned slightly. "You've been here all week." William nodded. "That's new." "It is." She studied him for a second, then looked toward Noah. "We're going out." William didn't respond right away, not because he didn't hear her, because he was making sure he understood what she meant. "With us?" he asked. Tamara held his gaze. Yes, that was it. No explanation, no conditions, just inclusion. William stood, no hesitation. All right. The park wasn't far, a short walk, the kind of place people didn't think about too much. Open space, a few benches, a small play area, nothing special, but it didn't need to be. Noah reacted immediately. The moment they stepped onto the grass, he pulled forward. "Go." Tamara let go of his hand. "Don't run too far." Noah didn't listen. Of course he didn't. He moved toward the play area, small steps turning into something faster. William followed without thinking, not close enough to control him, but close enough to be there. Tamara stayed back for a moment, watching, not just Noah, William, the way he moved, not stiff, not unsure, just attentive. Noah reached the small slide and tried to climb it the wrong way. William stepped in. "Not like that," he said. Noah looked at him, then tried again. Still wrong. William didn't stop him immediately. He waited, then adjusted him slightly. "Here." Noah followed this time. Not perfectly, but enough. At the top, Noah paused, looked back at William, then down the slide, then back again. William gave a small nod. "Go ahead." Noah slid down, laughed when he landed. That sound, it carried. Tamara heard it from where she stood, and something about it felt lighter. She walked over slowly, not rushing, just joining. Noah ran toward her this time. "Mama." She caught him easily. "You're not tired yet?" she asked. He shook his head, then pointed again. William stepped closer. "I've got him." Tamara hesitated, then let Noah go. That decision, it didn't come easily, but she made it. William picked Noah up and walked him back to the slide. More confident now, more certain. Tamara watched them, the way Noah leaned into him, the way William adjusted without thinking, the way nothing about it felt forced anymore. That part, she couldn't ignore. After a while, Noah slowed down. The energy shifted. He walked instead of running, stayed closer. William crouched slightly, brushing dirt from Noah's hands. "Done?" he asked. Noah didn't answer. He just reached out, one hand toward William, the other toward Tamara. They both noticed at the same time, a small pause. Then, William took one hand, Tamara took the other. Noah stood between them, not pulling, not choosing, just holding both. They started walking, slow, no rush, no direction that mattered, just movement. Together. Tamara glanced down, at Noah's hands, then at William. He didn't say anything, didn't look at her, just walked, letting the moment exist without trying to define it. That mattered, because before, everything felt like it needed to be explained. Now, it didn't. They reached a bench and stopped. Noah let go first, moved toward the grass again, unaffected. Tamara sat down. William remained standing for a second, then sat beside her, not too close, not distant, balanced. "You're getting used to this," she said quietly. William looked ahead. "I'm learning." She nodded slightly. That was more accurate. Noah ran back toward them, then past them, then back again. Unpredictable, free. Tamara leaned back slightly, her shoulders not as tense as they used to be, not fully relaxed, but not holding everything as tightly either. William noticed, didn't mention it, because this wasn't something you pointed out. It was something you protected. Noah slowed down again, walking back toward them. He didn't ask to be picked up. He just stood there, close, present, and for once, nothing about the moment felt uncertain. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't defined, but it was steady. And that was enough. The evening settled slowly, not heavy, not rushed, just steady. Back at the apartment, the quiet returned in a way that felt different from before. Noah moved around the room, dragging one of his toys behind him, stopping every now and then to look at something that caught his attention. Tamara stood near the kitchen counter, watching him, not closely, just enough. William leaned against the wall, giving space without stepping away completely. No one spoke right away, because nothing needed to be filled. It had been a full day, not in the way that exhausted you, in the way that made you think afterward. Tamara reached for a glass, filling it halfway before setting it down again without drinking. "You don't have to stay tonight," she said. Her voice wasn't distant, just careful. William looked at her. "I know." A pause. Then, "I'm not staying because I have to." Tamara nodded slightly. "I figured." She turned, leaning back lightly against the counter. For a moment, she just looked at him, not searching, not comparing, just looking. "You've been consistent," she said. William didn't respond immediately, because that word, it mattered. "I'm trying to be," he said. Tamara let out a small breath. "That's the only thing that works." Silence settled again, but this time, it didn't feel uncertain. Noah walked over, stopping between them. He looked up, then reached for Tamara first. "Mama." She took his hand. Then he turned, looked at William. A small pause. "Duh." Tamara didn't react the way she had before. She didn't step in, didn't correct it. She just stood there, letting it happen. William crouched slightly, meeting Noah at eye level. "Hey," he said quietly. Noah stepped closer, not asking, just choosing. William placed a hand gently on his back, not pulling him in, not taking anything more than what was given. Tamara watched that, every part of it, because that was where everything had changed, not in what he said, but in what he didn't take. She pushed herself off the counter slowly. "There's something you need to understand," she said. William looked up, fully attentive. "This," she gestured lightly toward Noah, "this isn't something you can step in and out of." Her tone wasn't sharp, but it was firm. "It doesn't pause when you leave. It doesn't wait for you to come back." William nodded. "I know." Tamara held his gaze. "No, you understand it, but you haven't lived it." That was true, and he didn't try to argue it. "I haven't," he said. A pause. Then, "But I want to." Simple, clear, no extra weight. Tamara studied him, because that answer, it wasn't about fixing anything. It wasn't about making up for what was missed. It was about what came next. She looked down at Noah, then back at William. "He deserves both of us," she said. The words came out steady, not emotional, just true. William nodded. "I know." But she didn't stop there. Not halfway, she continued. "Not when it's convenient. Not when it fits your life." Her eyes didn't leave his. All of it. That landed where it needed to. Because this wasn't a request. It was a condition. William straightened slightly. Not defensive, not overwhelmed. Just certain. "Then I'll be here for all of it," he said. Tamara didn't respond immediately, because she had heard words before. That wasn't what she was measuring anymore. She took a small step closer, close enough that the distance between them wasn't the same as before. Then don't disappear again. No raised voice, no emotion pushed into the words, but it carried more weight than anything she had said before. William didn't look away. I won't. He didn't add anything to it. Didn't try to explain how. Didn't try to prove it in that moment. Because this wasn't something you proved with words. This was something you proved with time. And he understood that now. Noah shifted between them, looking from one to the other, unaware of the conversation, but part of it, always part of it. Tamara reached down, adjusting his shirt slightly. A small movement, routine. William watched, not interrupting, not stepping in, just present. The room settled again, not quiet in a way that felt empty, quiet in a way that felt stable. Noah walked toward the couch, climbing up without asking for help. Tamara followed a step behind. William stayed where he was for a moment, then moved, not ahead, not behind, with them, and that was the difference, not catching up, not trying to fix what had already passed, just being there, exactly where he was supposed to be. Noah settled into the corner of the couch, looking at both of them like he expected them to stay, and this time, no one moved away, no one stepped back, no one left the space unfinished, because some things, you don't build all at once, you build them by staying, one day at a time, and for the first time, that was enough.